Hello and welcome to Calm the Pharm podcast, where pharmacy business meets legal wisdom, minus the headache. In each episode, we share practical legal tips and real-life examples to help you run your pharmacy with confidence. I'm your host, Sarah Stoddart. Thanks very much for joining us. Today on the podcast, we're doing our fourth and final look at the general requirements of the pharmacy location rules. And today I've left what is possibly the trickiest till last, and that is the requirement that at all relevant times, the proposed premises could be used for the purpose of operating a pharmacy under applicable local government and state or territory laws relating to land development. Well, what a mouthful that is. What does that actually mean? Well, on previous episodes, we've already looked at what all relevant times means. So that is the date the application is lodged and the date it is considered by the authority. So at all relevant times, the proposed premises needs to be able to be used for the purposes of operating a pharmacy under local laws, essentially. Now, they might be local laws or they might be state and territory laws relating to land development. Now, whilst there is legislation at state level which governs land use and the planning and environment sort of space, typically we find that most requirements relating to land use of a premises is under local laws. So that's your local councils. So what this requirement needs is for the applicants to satisfy the authority that the land on which the premises is based can actually be used for the purposes of the pharmacy. Now, why is this important? Well, it is important because there are different areas across the whole state of every state and territory of Australia that has different zoning. So you've got residential zoning, you've got commercial zoning, you've got industrial zoning, rural, etc., etc. Now, if you have a heavy industrial area where there might be, real hard industry businesses, I'm thinking, warehouses, heavy mechanics, motor vehicles, that sort of thing. You don't normally see a pharmacy in those areas. And the reason for that is because they are zoned industrial, and typically a pharmacy is not permitted in an industrial area. So you are typically finding pharmacies in retail and possibly commercial areas, but it all comes down to what the zoning is in the laws which apply to the land on which the premises are situated. So how do you go about proving this? Well, one of the simplest ways, and I say simple, but sometimes it does send you down a bit of a rabbit hole, is to look at the planning scheme which applies to the land where the proposed premises is. Now, if you go onto your local council website, you'll typically find the planning scheme, and the majority of websites relating for local councils, although not all, will enable you to conduct desktop planning and zoning searches. So what you can do is plug in your proposed premises address, pull up a zoning map, have a look at how it is zoned. Once you know how it's zoned, so it might be, residential retail, or it might be centre zone, or it could be any combination of zones. You then look at the planning scheme, you look at the zone which the land is in, you look at the purpose of that zone. So what is the purpose of the centre zone? What is the purpose of the industrial zone? It's all there spelt out in the planning scheme. What you're looking for is that the purpose actually allows a pharmacy or a retail shop, because that's what pharmacies are under these pieces of legislation. You'll see a lot of jargon, there's a lot of defined terms. So once you've established what zone it's in, the purpose of that zone, you then need to go and look at what are the permitted uses in that zone. And that'll be in another section of your planning scheme. Now, you will not ever find pharmacy as a permitted use under a planning scheme. We don't get to the nitty-gritty of particular retail stores like pharmacy, hairdresser, whatever it might be, fish and chip shop, news agent, etc. It's not that specific. What we usually find 99% of the time is shop, and the use is a shop, and you're looking at whether that use is permitted in the zone. So following through those steps again, you're looking at your planning scheme. You're determining the zone which applies to the land on which the proposed premises are located. You're looking at the purpose of the zone. the permitted uses of the zone, and then you need to go to the definitions, because if shop is a permitted use, you need to look at what shop actually means under that planning scheme and make sure that a pharmacy business fits that definition. Now, you might have some limitations in some planning schemes as to what shops can be permitted. Sometimes we see restrictions on size in planning schemes in particular zones. So you need to really look at all of this and join the dots. And that's why I say that this requirement is the most complex, because it is really a jigsaw puzzle and it's a matter of joining all the dots. Now, if you are unlucky enough to be in a zone or a planning scheme where there isn't an online website which enables you to conduct all these searches, you may need to approach your local council for information or a town planner and get them to provide you with information to satisfy this requirement. Another thing that we see, particularly with newer developments, is a copy of the development approval being submitted. And that will obviously spell out exactly what has been approved for the land, and hopefully it's very clear that a shop or even possibly a pharmacy has been permitted. You will see references to pharmacy in a development approval, you just won't see it in a planning scheme. So that's a snapshot of the final requirement of the general requirements. I do hope this has been beneficial for you. At that point, I just want to say, if you are enjoying Calm the Pharm podcast, please subscribe, like, comment, stay tuned, because there's definitely more to come throughout 2026. The other thing I wanted to mention that is in a few short weeks, the biggest pharmacy conference in the Southern Hemisphere will be taking place, and that is, of course, the APP conference on the Gold Coast. Now, the Vitality Law Australia team will be there that weekend. We are proud sponsors of the event this year, and I will also be presenting on the Saturday morning, the 14th of March. My title is From Handshake Deals to Legal Headaches, the must-know clauses to protect your pharmacy partnership. I'd love to see you there and look forward to receiving your feedback on the general requirement summaries we've done over the last 4 episodes. Thanks very much. Speak to you soon.